Maybe it's because trees were here long before we were, or because they seem to be the strong, silent type, or because trees are the source of so much that we use each day that we tend to take them entirely for granted. Perhaps it's because they're immovable and seem to be immobile. While we go about our lives at high speed, they appear to stand still. But although we might not see it, a tree is far from immobile. Seen in a different light and heard in a different way, it's definitely one of Earth's most powerful movers and shakers. From head to toe, a tree does nothing but move. Trees once covered 4/5 of the Earth's landmass, and all around the globe, a tree of life takes center stage in myth and legend. In Norse myth, a great ash tree called Yggdrasil linked the earth with heaven and hell. At its roots was a deep spring said to be the source of wisdom. The ancient Greeks thought Zeus created the human race from trees, and trees were long believed to carry the souls of the dead in their rustling leaves. Several of the world's great faiths tell of a tree where humankind gained knowledge of good and evil. Most living creatures can find shelter under the emerald blanket. Trees still cover almost half of the planet's land area. The empire of towering trees started small. The earliest plants were so tiny that hundreds would fit on a fingernail. Among the plants that sprang up, it was trees that really went on to bigger things. Perhaps no tree has more regal bearing than the oak. It offers so much: hardy timber, a habitat for other living things, and longevity people can only dream of. An oak believed to have sheltered Robin Hood still lives in Sherwood Forest. The oak is just one of more than 30,000 different kinds of trees. Over time, 3 great tree families evolved. The first was the conifer. Pines and other conifers took the streamlined path to power with the simplest of leaves, needles and scales. In a variety of climates, simple is good. Tiny leaves with a tough coating minimize water loss. And with more sugar produced, some conifers generate their own antifreeze. Conifers found a place of honor in the world of myth and legend. Their fragrant boughs were symbols of undying life and were brought indoors for Europe's midwinter festivals long before there were Christmas trees. An old story says juniper should be planted near doorways, as a witch would be able to enter only when she had correctly counted all the needles of the tree. The palm family were named for the spreading hand-like shape of their leaves. Tough and fibrous, they thrive in the warmest parts of the planet. For a real variety show, it takes the huge family of broadleaf trees and their spreading canopies. Their leaves come in a multitude of shapes and sizes. The Virginia leaf is indeed broad, while the box, also a broadleaf, is tiny. In any form, a leaf is part of the tree's strategic response to the conditions around it, how it captures light and air. When autumn comes, some of the broadleafs put on a spectacular show. Inside each leaf, green pigments fade away, while the hidden red or yellow pigments are revealed. New England's warm autumn days and chilly nights cause many trees to produce more sugars, and with them, some of the sweetest views of all. When its leaves fall, the tree begins to hibernate. Production cuts back during the long winter months. Even a mover and shaker has to take a break once in a while. But come spring, many of the nutrients in the fallen leaves will find their way right back to where they came from. To go out in a blaze of glory, only to spring back. That's power. Such tactics enable the broadleaf family to grow almost anywhere and in thousands more varieties than the palms or conifers. So what makes a tree a tree? It's not their tangled branches or their seeds or even their roots, although they may stretch as wide as the tree is tall. It's a combination of features: a single stem, the ability to make wood, and usually height. Giant bamboo? Close, but not a tree. It has multiple stems. A tiny bonsai? Yes, a rare exception to the rule about height, with all the majesty just in miniature. A tree of some kind can grow almost anywhere, rooted in swirling tides or bending in the wind. Finding a foothold on rocky terrain or bound in ice. Still, a few places on Earth have no trees at all, where nature is at its most inhospitable, at the highest altitudes or in the icy wastes of the North and South Poles. And there are other realms where trees can only grow when the local residents allow. In the grasslands of Africa, a contest with a hungry elephant can only have one result. Elsewhere, it's agriculture keeping the trees at bay. But trees are persistent, and among them, there are specialists. The monkey puzzle with twisted branches that puzzle and prickle even the most agile monkey. For size, no tree overshadows the giant sequoia, the most massive living thing on Earth. This one is General Sherman, alive and well and living in California. It stands 34 stories tall. From its timber, 40 five-room homes could be built. A century ago, there was a sequoia that would have made the general look like a private. Some enterprising showman decided to take it on the road and charge admission for a glimpse of such splendor. Sadly, the tree didn't survive the attention. Its spine snapped. End of show. As for the oldest living thing on Earth, it too is a tree which lives in Tasmania. The huon is 10,500 years old. It doesn't look like much, but maybe that's why it's lasted so long. No wonder mere mortals have revered trees across time. In ancient Rome, senators came home at lunchtime to feed wine to their favorite trees. In New Guinea, one tribal culture celebrates the felling of a tree with ritual. Stones are thrown to ensure the tree's departing spirit will leave the tree cutters unharmed. Tree superstitions live on. Perhaps we are trying to summon the power of trees when we knock on wood for luck. No one knows how the custom arose or why it must be done with the right hand. Wherever forests have grown up, so has magic and mystery. A fairy tale is never so spooky as when it takes place deep within a dark wood. Where the forest is dense, at least the trees are safe. There are benefits in standing together against the wind and other threats. A tree's true spirit is anything but malevolent. It makes a natural haven for plants and animals alike. With its sheltering arms and inviting bark, the tree is a kind of all-night motel crawling with life. Birds of paradise flit in for courtship. Any neighborhood tree will do. Some trees are more like five-star hotels with residents booked in for longer stays. Each kind of fig tree is emphatically exclusive. Only one kind of wasp is resident in each. Other trees seem to host conventions for one species at a time, even off-season. For an insect, a tree can provide a handy changing room. Leopards store their leftovers in trees away from greedy competitors. Reptilian guests drop in and out. And a tree may offer the best watering hole around, a pocket of refreshment between the main branch and the trunk. With several stories of space for those that come to stay, any host might find itself with problem guests, like the room-wrecking woodpecker. And the mistletoe plant, which stays on and on and on, sucking nutrients from its leafy host. Strangely enough, mistletoe often checks out in December. It seems to get invited elsewhere for Christmas. Only a tree can provide the year-round food supply some mammals store away, nutrition-packed seeds like acorns. But when there are only leaves on the menu, an animal like the sloth may need to eat all night to gain enough energy to move. Even then, its top speed is a stately 1/10 of a mile per hour. Fortunately, people don't have to live on leaves. We've been eating fruits and nuts since the Garden of Eden. In Eastern Europe, woodsmen traditionally threaten their fruit trees with 3 mock blows of an axe to induce the tree to produce even more fruit. The Aztecs were the first to make the delicacy they called chocolatl from the seeds inside the cocoa pod. It was the food of the serpent god Quetzalcoatl. A world without chocolate would be no fun at all. A world without mosquitoes, now that's a thought. But until then, malaria, the world's biggest killer, is still fought with medicine from the bark of the quina tree. From aspirin to one of the latest cancer drugs, we can find cures for our ailments in trees. Just looking at trees can make us feel better. Research shows that patients who gaze at trees from their hospital beds return to health a day faster than those who have no such view. Wood is one of our oldest and most dependable natural resources. We use it from the cradle to the grave. When we want to put down roots, we're likely to build with wood, both outside and in. When we're not sheltered by wood, we're burning it. Half of the world's forest crop is used for fuel, firewood or charcoal. In developing countries, 9 out of 10 people are warmed by trees. Throughout history, when human beings have felt rootless, they have turned to wood. Nearly 4,000 mature trees were needed to build an 18th century warship. When the British ran out of trees for their shipbuilding, the American colonies made up the shortfall until 1776, when the supply suddenly ended. People have even tried to get trees to fly. Since the Wright brothers, some attempts have been successful. Just. Without wood, the world would be a quiet place indeed. In Guatemala, only the wood of female trees is used to make the marimba. The sound is said to be the tree's lament for her lost lover still standing in the forest. In Zaire, solemn ritual solicits the cooperation of both the wood and the spirit world. When the drum spirit is pleased, dancers become lost in the music. From pencils to rubber for erasers, to paper and the tires that transport them all, trees deliver the goods in seemingly endless supply. Since 1917, Earth's population has quadrupled, but worldwide use of paper has grown 17 times. Even a tree has a hard time coping with that much popularity. In some places, trees get a hand. Expert tree farming, recycling, and conservation all stretch what a tree can produce. But surely, amid the bounty of worldly goods trees provide, nothing gives more pleasure than their most simple offering of all, beauty. One Scottish farmer even planted his forest in the shape of a heart. Trees should be close to our hearts since they fill our lungs. One mature oak tree provides a year's supply of oxygen for 8 people, or a whole warren of rabbits. And every tree runs an oxygen factory. Trees, unlike animals, can make their own food and make wood grow on trees, starting with just sunlight and carbon dioxide. Sugars made in the leaves take internal elevators down to the factory in the trunk. Deep in the basement, water and minerals are sucked up by the roots, a labyrinth of drinking straws stretching to any source of water. Water, gallons of it, rises up to the inhaling, exhaling leaves, exhaling oxygen, the stuff on which our life depends, but just a byproduct to the tree. It's sugars the tree needs, which fuel its steady expansion, the wood building that happens at the outer edge of the factory floor. There, new cells harden like cement mix and turn to solid wood. As the tree grows taller, it's also growing fatter, like a man piling on overcoats. Many trees add a new coat each year. Good times show as wide rings. The bands between rings form during winter when growth virtually halts. Tropical trees grow all year and have no rings. The eucalyptus adds a thick yearly ring, while the huan makes the thinnest rings of all. As human beings live through revolution and war, fashions and fads, a tree just keeps adding rings. As millions of munching mouths, illness, and gale-force winds hurtle through, there's constant stress, and only the strong can take it. When trees are under threat, they make strategic moves and they mount defenses. The African acacia is locked in an arms race. Its thorns are anti-giraffe paraphernalia. But giraffes can adapt too. They've developed thick, rubbery lips, and they learn to wrap their remarkable blue tongues around the thorns to feed. The acacia raises the stakes. It can inject poison into its leaves. And there's more. The tree gives off gas to warn its neighbors to release their poison if a predator lurks. Who says trees can't talk? However, trees can't walk, let alone run. Their powers cannot match the fury of fire. When fires ravage forests, the toll seems terrible. But sometimes the apparent disaster can be friendly fire. After the flames sweep through, fire-adapted species spring to life. Heat-sensitive seed pods burst open in the heat, and new shoots quickly sprout. Even in death, trees have the power to provide for the next generation. When the time is right, a tree will stop at nothing in the effort to entice, wearing scent, bright colors, and plenty of flowers. The Cortez Amarillion of South America is something of a shy seducer. It only flowers for one day each year, and always at tea time. Every tree is a seducer with a mission. Pollen must be moved, usually from a male stalk to a female flower, so a new generation can begin. Pollen grains cling to birds, bees, and bats, who never even know what hits them. Of course, there are some trees that use subtler attractions. There's no point in dressing up if the only help you need is from the wind. Then a less colorful bit of fluff will do. After the seduction, seeds take shape, but they don't stick around for long. Trees have devised countless strategies for ensuring that the next generation moves on. They travel by air or by sea with the help of a long-distance courier. Fish eat fig seeds and deposit them on faraway shores. Monkeys perform a similar function and provide a helpful load of fertilizer upon delivery. When a tree stands alone, like the guanacast, miles from its nearest neighbor, how did it get there? It rode in, courtesy of a seed-loving horse, whose digestive system may keep the seeds in storage for up to a year. By that time, the horse will have left its mark, quite literally, all over the place. One courier, the agouti, is a great hoarder of nuts. The problem is it has a terrible memory. It often forgets where it stashed its parcel of Brazil nuts, so they grow wherever the agouti leads them. Trees are so successful in their reproductive schemes that they're often associated with human fertility. In parts of India, the fruit of the coconut palm is kept in shrines and given to women wishing to bear children. And there are rituals to discourage reproduction. Christian nuns once drank a brew of the chaste tree's leaves to calm unhallowed emotions. There's no stopping a healthy tree's fertility, and there's no more powerful parent than the oak. Its spring flowers turn to autumn acorns, but rarely before an oak is 50 years old. Then 50,000 acorns fall from one parent tree. But what happens next is a gigantic game of chance. Each acorn must first survive, buried in its parents' fallen leaves, for an entire winter. Even when spring comes, it faces terrible odds. An acorn isn't looking for parental attention. If it's to survive, it must make a clean getaway. Its only hope, outlast its siblings, all 50,000 of them. Among so many acorns, there may be just one that survives and goes on to feed the seedling that sprouts and grows. With the strength of its powerful inheritance, plus luck, a sapling will live to magnificent maturity. Trees come packed with the power to succeed, but not even their defenses can withstand this. With what we now know about trees, deforestation is being reconsidered all over the world. For the oxygen supplied by trees is only part of their wealth. They are also like a bank, storing away some of our modern waste. Even a small wood can absorb much of the carbon dioxide produced by a fossil fuel power station. Whether growing in a sheltered forest or standing alone in the heart of a city, a tree is its own powerhouse of activity. Deep in its hidden factory, it conjures so much from so little. A tree will be many things in its lifetime. It will be powerful, productive, and more than a little bit pushy. The one thing it will not be is still.
Eyewitness Museum, created by combining traditional filmmaking techniques with state-of-the-art graphics, stripping away the mysteries of nature and science to reveal the essence of each subject, bringing the world into sharp focus. The making of Eyewitness. The distinct style of the Eyewitness books is the basis for each of the programs. Each half-hour episode is based on a book title. The Eyewitness book's visual style gives the program makers a starting point and a challenge. The challenge of transferring clarity and super realism into moving images and sound. Now let's take a look behind the scenes at the making of Tree. The Eyewitness team are ready to rise to any challenge, but a proper tree complete with roots in the Eyewitness studio? Time to consult with the model makers.
Cleverly from your real tree to a model tree to, again, the other important one.
They drew up plans, collected materials, and set to work. First, they built a metal skeleton to give the structure a backbone. That is covered in tape. Next comes a spray-on expanding foam, lightweight with a bark-like texture. Even the leaves and branches have to be custom-made to 1/2 scale. The tree took weeks to complete. To get the fluid flying shots desired, the tree is brought into a studio equipped with a computer-driven camera. And because of the sheer scale of the model, there was only one studio with a rig large enough to accommodate it. Once the moves were practiced, the last-minute touches had been completed, and the computer programmed,
Okay, Tim, from there.
it was time for action. This rig can move with astonishing grace and agility, almost anywhere you want, despite weighing over 5 tons.
I'm going to run this in slowly, Tim. I'll keep an eye on it. You got that?
As always, the final shots justified all the hard work. Throughout the Eyewitness series, many animals have been filmed in the studio. This squirrel needed no special instructions when it came to eating nuts. Many of the Eyewitness animals are professionals. They have wranglers, handlers, even agents. This fox was orphaned as a cub. Rescued and reared by his handler, he's appeared in dozens of films and commercials. Pigs live a blinkered life. Still, they'll work for peanuts. Or acorns, if that's what's on the menu. Birds can be more challenging. They fly, and we can't. This owl took wing for a high-level studio tour. He made it clear who was really calling the shots on this shoot.
I don't think you're going to have much luck on filming her.